Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 8th, 2019. The song you hear in the background is Tiger Rag, which is a Clemson song. That's because Clemson dominates Alabama in the national championship game by the score of 44-16. This is the best win Dabo Swinney will ever have as a head coach, dominating his alma mater as a 5.5-point dog the way they did. It was just a fantastic performance by Trevor Lawrence, who had 347 yards and 3 scores as Clemson rolled Alabama. Tua Tagovailoa in the losing effort was not good. 22 of 34, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Travis Etienne, 14 carries of 86 yards. Justin Ross was awesome receiving the ball, 6 receptions for 153 yards and a touchdown. Clemson actually started this game with a 3-and-out, and then Alabama has the ball. Then Tua Tagovailoa throws a 44-yard interception, pick 6. A.J. Terrell ends up with the pick 6, 7-0 Clemson. Alabama ties it up nearly a minute later, 62-yarder from Tua Tagovailoa to Jerry Jeudy, 7-7. Travis Etienne, 17-yard run 2 minutes later to put Clemson up 14-7. 4 minutes later, Hale Henton's 1-yard touchdown pass from Tua Tagovailoa. Joseph Balava's missed extra point, 14-13. Second quarter, Balavas makes a 25-yard field goal, 16-14 Alabama. The lone lead Bama would have in the game. 3 minutes later, Etienne 1-yard run, 21-16 Clemson. And then exactly 7 minutes later, Etienne 5-yard pass from Trevor Lawrence, 28-16 Tigers. Then 45 seconds left in the half, Greg Hugel 36-yard field goal. Third quarter, Clemson breaks it open, 74-yard touchdown pass from Trevor Lawrence to Justin Ross, 37-16 in favor of Clemson. 21 seconds left in the third quarter. The dagger 5-yarder from Trevor Lawrence to T. Higgins, 44-16 final. Alabama went for it on fourth down a couple times and didn't get it. And Alabama also faked the field goal, which Clemson defended successfully. And then Alabama just looked like a dejected team in the fourth quarter. Jalen Hurts got some reps. Chase Bryce, the backup for Trevor Lawrence, actually saw some action there at the end as well. Fantastic win for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers, and just a gut-wrenching, terrible performance by Nick Saban's Crimson Tide team. And these two teams are certainly going to be contenders next year. Yes, both teams are losing some key players. Clemson will lose Christian Wilkins, Dexter Lawrence most likely, and Clelin Ferrell to the NFL. Ferrell and Wilkinson are no-brainers to go to the NFL. And Lawrence has a chance to go this year too. Alabama's losing a couple guys. Quinnen Williams, the defensive end that is the leader of that pass rush, is going to be declaring for the draft. And also, but from Alabama, their great offensive lineman, Jonah Williams, who people think is going to be a top 3 pick in the draft. I'll probably do my first mock draft of the year tomorrow, because this podcast is about Clemson's big win over Alabama and what's next for both teams. And I want to do my final top 25 right now, and then the way too early top 25 from me in a couple of minutes. So let's go with the final top 25 of the year. Number 1, no doubt about it, it's Clemson. 2 as Alabama. Yeah, Alabama just got their butts kicked in the title game, but they're still right there at Clemson. It was just a lot of mistakes, a lot of points left on the board for Bama, and they were just outclassed and outplayed and outcoached. And I don't think you'll see a worse performance from a Nick Saban team than that. 3 is Oklahoma. This was a tough call, but Oklahoma was competitive in the second half against Bama, and they showed a lot of leakage in that defense as Kyler Murray and that offense played really well in the second half in the Orange Bowl. Number 4, Notre Dame. Yeah, they no-showed their playoff game, but they're a team that's certainly looking better than it did a week ago because Clemson destroys Alabama after destroying Notre Dame. So Clemson destroying what everybody thought was the best team in the country makes Notre Dame look somewhat better. Number 5 is Ohio State. They were the team that some people thought should have been in the playoff, especially after how Oklahoma looked down 28-0 and how Notre Dame got their butts beat in the Cotton Bowl. But Ohio State did have a good year. They won the Rose Bowl. Dwayne Haskins is probably going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft after he declared yesterday. Number 6, Texas. They had the good win over Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Georgia actually have at number 7. I really think that they just didn't want to be there. And that's nothing to take away from Texas and how good they looked. Number 8, LSU. They had the good win in the Fiesta Bowl over UCF. Ed Orgeron's team had a great season. Number 9 is the Florida Gators. They had an excellent win in the Peach Bowl over Michigan, who I have at number 10. Michigan's kind of in that Georgia scenario of it looked like they didn't want to be there, but that can't take anything away from how good Florida looked in that game. 11, UCF. They were competitive with LSU and certainly will be back next year. Number 12 is the Washington Huskies. They nearly pulled off an improbable comeback against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. 13 is Kentucky. They had a good win, and I believe it was the Citrus Bowl over Penn State, who I have at 14. Penn State lost Trace McSorley in that game, and that was his final collegiate game. 15 is Washington State. They had a phenomenal year. Mike Leach did excellent. He was probably one of the candidates for the Coach of the Year award, the National Coach of the Year, with the job he did. 16 is Syracuse. They had a phenomenal season. They capped it off by beating West Virginia. But a lot of people are going to point at them and say, oh, well, West Virginia didn't have Will Grier. But still, that's nothing to take away from Syracuse and their great season. Dino Babers did excellent this year. And you could argue this is the team in the ACC that had the second best year behind Clemson. 17, Texas A&M, fantastic year one with Jimbo Fisher at the helm. Kellen Mond had a good year at quarterback. 18, Army. This is the best season that program's probably ever had, and the future's bright there. Number 19 is Fresno State. They had a really good year. Back-to-back good years for them, by the way. 20, Utah State, a team that almost upset Michigan State in week 1 of the season, proved that they were no fluke, and they capped it off with the dominating win in their bowl game. I believe it was over North Texas. Number 21 is Northwestern. They made the Big Ten title game but lost and ended up winning their bowl game against Utah, and I have number 22, West Virginia. Their season did not end well. 3 straight losses. Dana Holgorsen leaves for Houston. Will Grier's going to the NFL, so this team's probably going to take a step back next year, even though they hired a good coach in Neil Brown. 23, Cincinnati. Great year for them. Only 2 losses, and they beat Virginia Tech in their bowl game. 24, Iowa. Iowa had a pretty good year. Had some weird losses, but had some good wins. they had obviously their good bowl win as well. And then number 25 is the Iowa State Cyclones, who deserve a ton of credit. They've had a phenomenal run with Matt Campbell. Yeah, they just lost their bowl game, but that doesn't take away the great year they had, and I want to recognize them on the podcast by giving them my last spot in the top 25 final power rankings. And now let's look ahead to next year. The way too early top 25 for next year, for me, at least. It's ironic because ESPN's way too early top 25 is the same as mine, but obviously a different order. We just have the same 25 teams, and this was Mark Schlabach who wrote this. Number 1, I have the Clemson Tigers, no doubt about it. They're your new national champions. Trevor Lawrence will be back next year. He's going to go into next season as a favorite for the Heisman Trophy for sure, just like Tua Tagovailoa did last year. And speaking of Tua Tagovailoa, I have number 2, Alabama. They'll be the favorites in the SEC again. And they have some key losses and key returnees as well. Obviously, Tua. And a couple of their offensive guys will be back as well. Number 3 is Georgia. Obviously, the talented Jake Fromm will be back. They have a lot of key losses, but Kirby Smart's an excellent recruit coach, and they certainly have a chance to steal the SEC away from Bama next year. Number 4 is Ohio State. Justin Fields is coming in to replace the declared for the NFL draft, Dwayne Haskins. They have some key losses on defense. Urban Meyer's gone, so maybe that is a case against them. Their new coach, Ryan Day, I think Ohio State sees as their version of Lincoln Riley, but that'll be determined whether he is their Lincoln Riley or just a bad decision by Ohio State as the season goes on. They are under immense pressure next year, in my opinion, just like Oklahoma was under some pressure in year 1 under Lincoln Riley. And all Lincoln Riley's done at Oklahoma has made 2 playoff appearances, and that is a good way to replace your former boss, and now Ryan Day faces that kind of pressure. Number 5, I have Notre Dame. Ian Book will be back. They have some other guys coming back as well. Dexter Williams is gone. That's a big loss, but I still think that this is a good team and should be a contender next year. And I think Brian Kelly did it excellent this year. Number 6, I have the Michigan Wolverines. And oh, by the way, Schlabach on this piece had the same exact top 5 order as me, with Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Number 6, he has Oklahoma. I have Michigan. Shea Patterson's coming back. They do lose some key guys on defense. They have 5 starters coming back, which isn't great, so they'll take a step back on that end. But I do think their offense will be better. Patterson, year 2 with Jim Harbaugh. I still think that this team is going to be very good and will be competing with Ohio State atop the Big Ten next season. Number 7, I have the Texas Longhorns. Yes, Texas is ahead of Oklahoma on my rankings. Tom Herman ended what was a great second year for him with that win in the Sugar Bowl. They have some key pieces coming back. Trey Watson's gone. That's a big loss. And obviously, Sam Ehlinger will be back, which is big for that program. Colin Johnson will be back as one of their key weapons on offense as well. Number 8, I have the Florida Gators. They had a great win in the Peach Bowl. They have some key losses. Jordan Scarlett's gone. Felipe Franks, I am not a fan of whatsoever. But he was really good in the Peach Bowl and Maybe another year with Dan Mullen will help him. And maybe he'll become like more of a Dak Prescott type of college quarterback. And he'll improve. And the reason why I'm comparing him to Dak is because Dak was obviously a quarterback for Dan Mullen at Mississippi State who led the Bulldogs to what was a great year in 2014-15. I believe they were in the New Year's Six Bowl that year as well. Number 9, I have the Washington Huskies. I just think Chris Peterson is an excellent head coach, and I think this team will be among the best in the conference. They lose Jake Browning, but former Georgia quarterback Jacob Eason will be their new quarterback, and I think he'll do a good job with the Huskies. They have some key players coming back. Myles Gaskin, they lose too. That's a big loss. They have some big losses on defense. Only 2 starters coming back on defense, 7 on offense, which will help Eason, in my opinion. But that's just the respect I have for Chris Peterson and how well he's done. Number 10 is Oregon, the consensus team to beat going into next year in the Pac-12. Obviously, Justin Herbert's coming back to school, which is big for them. A ton of starters coming back. And Mario Cristobal has to be delighted for that. Number 11, I have the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm not as high on them as Schlabach is. I don't think they're even going to be the favorites in their conference next year. I think it should be Texas. Kyler Murray's gone. Marquise Brown gone. Ronnie Anderson gone. Their defense is returning 10 guys, which is pretty good, in which they'll be experienced and maybe improved. But they'll have some new starters on offense, including a new quarterback, which I think could be not necessarily troublesome, but something to look out for. Number 12, I have the Texas A&M Aggies. Fantastic year 1 under Jimbo Fisher. I think they'll be great again next year. Kellen Mond's coming back, but they do lose Trayvon Williams. But I really think this is a good team going into next year. Number 13, I have the LSU Tigers, who had a really good year last year. Nick Brissett is gone. Greedy Williams gone. But they do have coming back Joe Burrow, who had a great performance against UCF. But I'm never really confident in LSU quarterbacks. They really haven't had a good quarterback in a long time. But Burrow's performance in that spot was really, really encouraging for Ed Orgeron's team, who should be a contender next year. 14 at the Penn State Nittany Lions. I think that Trace McSorley will be a notable big loss. But Tommy Stevens, the fifth-year senior, will probably come in and do a nice job. They have 6 returning starters on offense and 6 on defense. Miles Sanders is a key loss for this team as well, but they should be a decent team in the Big Ten. Number 15, I have the UCF Knights, who will go into next year as the likely favorite in the AAC. Will Mackenzie Milton be back for the season? That will remain to be seen. Dario Mack Jr. was very good in Milton's absence, so at least they still have a quality backup quarterback in case Milton's not ready to go. They have some key other starters returning as well. And Josh Heupel did a really nice job in year 1. Number 16, I have the Washington State Cougars. They had what was a phenomenal year last year. There are people that think that that was no fluke. I'm not sure so, because they lose Gardner Minshew, they lose Kyle Sweet, they lose some defensive guys. But a lot of people think that Notre Dame's Brandon Wimbush could be a guy that they could get via transfer. But Mike Leach has just done phenomenal over the past few seasons, so I shouldn't doubt him. Number 17, I have the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Yes, they went 4-8 a year ago, but a lot of key guys coming back, including soon-to-be sophomore quarterback Adrian Martinez. He was great as a freshman. They do lose Stanley Morgan and Divine Ozigbo, but they do have some other key offensive guys coming back, which will make this team a factor in the Big Ten next season. Number 18, the Syracuse Orange. I just discussed what a great year Dino Babers had. I do think that this team will be solid. Eric Dungy's gone, though. That's a loss. He was great for them. Tommy DeVito's the favorite to be next year's starter, who has a good arm, and he's a good runner, too. So we shall see how they do in next year. Number 19, I have the Iowa State Cyclones. I just can't doubt Matt Campbell at this point. David Montgomery's a big loss on offense, but Brock Purdy was really good throwing the ball last year. And Campbell isn't going nowhere soon, and he'll have this team as a contender in the Big 12 in no time. And that's where that's trending. Number 20 of the Northwestern Wildcats. They finished the year with the bowl win over Utah. Pat Fitzgerald always has good teams. Clayton Thorson's gone, though. That's a big loss for them. TJ Green will probably be their quarterback next year. Key returners on defense. 21, I have the Wisconsin Badgers. That was just a disappointing season this past year for them. Although they finished it off with the big win in the Pinstripe Bowl. They lose some key guys. Jonathan Taylor will be back to be the lead back on their offense. Alex Hornibrook has been dealing with concussions throughout the year, although he's going to have competition for his job. Graham Mertz is an incoming freshman, number 2 pocket passer in the ESPN 300. Will be battling Hornibrook for the quarterback job, and they also have a sophomore, Jack Cohn, who was Hornibrook's backup this past year. And they do have a tough schedule this upcoming season, too. Number 22, I have the Missouri Tigers. They lose Drew Lock and lose a couple other key guys offensively. Kelly Bryant is transferring to Missouri, which is big for them. And Bryant wasn't great in that game against Alabama last year, but he showed promise in that Texas A&M game, but still, Dabo Swinney made the move to Trevor Lawrence, which changed the outlook of their season. Boy. Number 23, I have the Utah Utes. They lost to Northwestern in the Holiday Bowl, but they have some key players coming back. 9 on offense, 7 on defense. Tyler Huntley's coming back. At quarterback, he had the broken collarbone. And their running back, Zach Moss, will be back too. Number 24 of the Auburn Tigers. Disappointing year this year. Jarrett Stidham's gone. They have a couple other starters gone. They had that great win over Purdue in the Music City Bowl. Their new quarterback's going to be Bo Nix, who was the number 4 pocket passer in the ESPN 300. And they have a tough schedule next year as well, obviously with SEC play, and then they have to play Oregon to start the year, which will be a marquee matchup. And number 25, I have to give this team love. I gave them love in the close out top 25, but the way too early top 25, my number 25 team is the Army Black Knights. 13 starters returned, 7 on offense, 6 on defense. Yeah, they weren't great offensively, but they have their starters coming back, which makes them better. They took Oklahoma to overtime last year. This team really has thrived in big spots, and they should be a double-digit win team next year if their schedule is easy enough. That was enough college football chat for the day. I'll also be discussing a lot of college football a little bit going forward, as they have the second National Signing Day coming up, and any other coaching changes that happen or quarterback transfers and whatnot. We're going to go to college basketball, where there weren't many big games last night in that sport because of the Clemson-Alabama game. It was mostly MEAC, SWAC, and Big Sky play last night. Fairfield defeats Niagara 77-59. Fairfield goes to 4-11. Niagara goes to 7-8. Coppin State defeats Delaware State 64-60. Coppin 2-15. Delaware State 3-12. Howard defeats Maryland Eastern 79-39. Howard 7-9. UMass 2-15. Savannah State defeats Morgan State 88-87 in overtime. Savannah State 4-12. Morgan State 6-9. Norfolk State defeats Florida A&M 72-62. Norfolk 7-10. Florida A&M 4-13. Texas Southern defeats Southern 77-67. Texas Southern 7-8. Southern 1-14. Prairie View A&M defeats Alcorn State 57-54. Prairie View 4-11. Alcorn 4-10. Alabama State defeats Jackson State 59-57. Alabama State 4-9. Jackson State 4-11. Alabama A&M defeats Grambling 65-60 in overtime. Bama A&M 2-14. Grambling 6-9. And Northern Colorado defeated Eastern Washington 75-63. Northern Colorado 10-5, Eastern Washington 3-12. Tonight's slate's pretty big. I'll pick all the important conference games in the big-time conferences. 7 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, you have Maryland and Minnesota. Neither of these teams are ranked. I'm taking Minnesota to win on its home floor and covering the 2. Number 1, Duke at Wake Forest, 7 o'clock ESPN. Is this a trap game for the Blue Devils? I'd say it is, but the point spread suggests it's not. Duke is somehow a 21-point favorite at Wake Forest. If that game was at Cameron Indoor, I'd make Duke a 21-point favorite. And if it was a neutral, I'd say Duke by 18. If this was at Wake Forest like it is, I'd make Duke minus 15. So I'm going to take Wake Forest to cover the point spread. Duke's obviously going to win the game. Number 3, Tennessee at Missouri, 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Tennessee's 8.5-point favorite. I think Tennessee wins, but Missouri covers the number. 7 o'clock on the SEC Network, you have Texas A&M at number 18, Kentucky. I think Kentucky bounces back and gets the win, and I think they'll cover the 15 with ease. 7 o'clock on Fox Sports 1, you have number 24, St. John's at Villanova. Villanova is a 6-point favorite. So I'm going to say that Villanova gets the win, but it's not an upset because Villanova is a 6-point favorite. I think St. John's covers the number, though. Number 20, Iowa State at Baylor, 7 o'clock on ESPN News. Iowa State's favored by 2.5, and I think they win and cover. Texas is at Oklahoma State, 7 o'clock on ESPNU. I think Texas wins and covers. Akron at Central Michigan, Manhattan at Marist, Eastern Michigan at Ball State, Northern Illinois at Miami of Ohio, Ohio at Bowling Green, Toledo at number 19 Buffalo. That is quietly a big game. These two teams are the best in the MAC at a combined 25-3. Buffalo's home. I think they win. But I'm going to say that Toledo covers the 9.5. Western Michigan's at Kent State. Kent State's 11-3 very quietly, too. So the MAC has a couple good teams in there. Brown at Canisius. Brown's quietly a good team that's in the Ivy League. That's not getting enough attention because all the attention's for Yale and Harvard and Penn and even Princeton to some degree. Skidmore at Yale. Missouri State at Indiana State. Mid-Atlantic Christian at North Carolina A&T. Southern Illinois at Drake. Drake's quietly 11-4. That's an 8 o'clock game, and I think Drake wins outright as a 2-point underdog. Northern Iowa at Illinois State. Loyola Chicago at Evansville is on CBS Sports Network at 8 o'clock. Loyola is a 6-point favorite. I think Evansville actually wins outright as a 6-point dog at home, but I don't feel great about it. It's just a gut feeling I have. Bradley at Valparaiso. Purdue at number 6, Michigan State, 9 o'clock on ESPN2. Michigan State has been dominating people lately. I think that they're a dark horse to win the title. I think they're going to win and cover the 7.5, but barely. The most intriguing game of the night, 9 o'clock ESPN, number 12 North Carolina, number 15 NC State. NC State is a 1.5-point favorite, so it's not an upset if NC State wins. And guess what? I think NC State will win the game. So giving NC State, they're giving 1.5. I think they'll cover that number, but I think they win by 5, although I'm not going to rule out the Tar Heels winning by any stretch, because the Tar Heels are the better team. Let's be honest, they are. But NC State's home, and I think that this is a golden opportunity for them to put themselves on the map nationally. They got that big win over Auburn. That's going to resonate with them on Selection Sunday. But getting a win over Roy Williams in North Carolina would be even bigger, especially for them in conference play. A sneaky big one in the SEC, 9 o'clock on the SEC Network. You have Alabama at LSU. These two teams are combined 20-6. Yes, I did just say that. I think LSU wins and covers the 6, but barely. Number 14, Mississippi State's at South Carolina, 9 o'clock on ESPNU. Trap game for the Bulldogs. I think they win and cover, though. They're favored by 5.5. Number 23, Oklahoma, and number 8, Texas Tech, 9 o'clock on ESPN News. Texas Tech's a 7-point favorite. I think Texas Tech wins, but Oklahoma covers. Florida Gulf Coast at North Alabama. Air Force at Colorado State. 10 o'clock CBS Sports Network. Wyoming at San Diego State. San Diego State is favored by 13.5. San Diego State's under some pressure. They've had a bad non-con, and I believe they lost a game in conference play already. I think they're going to win this game by double digits and will cover the 13.5. UNLV at New Mexico. Is this a letdown spot for New Mexico after their upset win over Nevada? 11 o'clock game on ESPN2. I think UNLV not only covers but wins the game outright. I think that's a letdown spot for New Mexico. Now I'm going to move on to NBA. Only 7 games on the slate last night. The Spurs defeat the Pistons 119-107. San Antonio's 24-17. Detroit 17-21. DeMar DeRozan continues to play really well. 26 points, 7 boards, 9 assists. Bryn Forbes had 15. Derek White had 17. LaMarcus Aldridge had 25. Off the bench, Patty Mills had 13. Blake Griffin had 34 with 8 boards. Andre Drummond 19 with 14 boards. Blake had 8 assists and 2 boards. So that was a misread by me. Reggie Jackson had 14. Reggie Bullock had 13. John Muir had 10. And Luke Kennard had 10 off the bench as well. The Celtics defeat the Nets 116-95. A very good win for the Boston Celtics against a hot team in the Nets. Boston goes to 24-15. Brooklyn drops to 20-22. Kyrie Irving had 17. Marcus Smart had 12. Al Horford also had 12 with 9 boards and 5 assists. Jason Tatum had 16. Marcus Morris had 12. Off the bench, Daniel Theis had 11. Gordon Hayward had 12. Terry Rozier had 10. And for Brooklyn, Rodions Carusis, 24 points, 5 of 8 from 3. Shabazz Napier had 10. Ed Davis off the bench had 11. Kenneth Faried off the bench had 13 with 12 boards. And Spencer Dinwiddie off the bench had 15. Dinwiddie, by the way, a long shot for 6th man of the year. I think he's certainly in the conversation, especially if the Nets sneak in the playoffs as the 8th seed in the East. The Rockets defeat the Nuggets 125-113. Houston 23-16. Denver drops to 26-12. James Harden continues his quest for a second consecutive MVP award with 32 points and 14 assists. Clint Capella, career high, 31 points and 9 boards. PJ Tucker at 21, including 7 threes. And Gerald Green off the bench had 21, including 6 threes. Nikola Jokic had 24 with 13 boards. Jamal Murray had 13. Gary Harris had 14 off the bench. Monte Morris had 21, and Michael Beasley had 14. Malik Beasley. The Bucks defeat the Jazz 114-102. Milwaukee improves to 28-11. Utah drops to 20-21. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 30 points and 10 boards. Chris Middleton, 14.7 boards, 5 assists. Brook Lopez had 15. Malcolm Brogdon had 21. Off the bench, Thon Maker had 15. Donovan Mitchell had 26, including 6 3-pointers. Rudy Gobert had 14 points and 15 boards. Derek Favors had 12 with 7 boards. Off the bench, Jay Crowder had 12 and with 10 points. Off the bench, Raul Neto. The Pelicans defeat the Grizzlies 114-95. Impressive win for the Pelicans, 19-22 on the year. Memphis drops to 18-22. Anthony Davis had 36 points and 13 boards. Julius Randle had 15. Elfrid Payton had 11. Drew Holiday had 13. Fred Jackson off the bench had 17. Mike Conley had 22 points and 10 assists. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 12. Off the bench, Jermichael Green had 16. The Lakers defeat the Mavericks 107-97, a very important win for the Lakers without LeBron James. They're 22-19 on the year. Dallas drops to 18-22. Bad loss for Dallas without LeBron for the Lakers. Brandon Ingram had 29. Lonzo Ball had 21. Josh Hart had 14 with 12 boards. Kyle Kuzma's back. He had 13. That certainly gave the Lakers a boost. Michael Beasley had 13 off the bench. Harrison Barnes had 11. Luka Doncic had 27. DeAndre Jordan had 10 with 19 boards. Dennis Smith Jr. had 19. J.J. Barea had 11 off the bench. The Trailblazers defeat the Knicks 111-101. Portland 24-17. New York's 10-30. Jusuf Nurkic, 20 points. Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum each had 17. Off the bench, Evan Turner and Jake Layman each had 10. Seth Curry had 13 off the bench. Emmanuel Mudiay had 17 with 7 assists. Noah Vonleh had 16. And off the bench, Trey Burke had 10. Enes Kanter had 18 with 14 boards. And Mario Hezonja had 14 off the bench with 7 boards. The Kings defeat the Magic 111-95. Sacramento improves to 20-20. Orlando drops to 17-23. De'Aaron Fox had 20 points. Buddy Hield had 13. Bojan Bogdanovic had 15 with 7 assists and 8 boards. Willie Cauley-Stein had 11 with 11 boards. Justin Jackson had 11. Yogi Ferrell had 10 off the bench. And for Orlando, Terrence Ross off the bench had 20. 11 points off the bench. Wesley Iwundu. Aaron Gordon had 10. Nikola Vucevic had 18 with 13 boards. And Evan Fournier had 15. Tonight's slate, 8 deep tonight. 7 o'clock, the Pacers at the Cavs. The Wizards at the Sixers. 7:30, the Nuggets at the Heat. The Hawks at the Raptors. 8 o'clock, NBA TV. The Timberwolves at the Thunder. 9 o'clock, the Kings at the Suns. 10:30, Hornets at the Clippers. And on NBA TV, the Knicks at the Warriors. Now I'll move on to NHL. Only a 5-game board last night. The Predators defeat the Maple Leafs 4-0. Nashville improves to 26-15-3. Toronto drops to 27-13-2. Number 1 star of the game with 18 saves on 18 shots, Pekka Rinne. Number 2 star of the game with the goal and an assist, Matthias Alcom. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Kevin Fiala. The Blues defeat the Flyers 3-0. Impressive win for St. Louis. 17-19-4 on the year. Philly 15-21-6. Number 1 star of the game with a goal, Braden Shen. Number 2 star of the game with 25 saves on 25 shots, Jordan Binnington. And the number 3 star of the game with an assist, Jaden Schwartz. The Wild defeat the Canadiens 1-0. Montreal drops to 22-16-5. Minnesota improves to 21-17-3. Number 1 star of the game with 32 saves on 32 shots, Devin Dubnyk. Number 2 star of the game with 24 saves on 25 shots, Carey Price. Number 3 star of the game with the lone goal of the game, Mikael Granlund. The Flames defeat the Blackhawks 4-3. An impressive win for Calgary considering that Chicago's playing a little better lately. 27-13-4 on the year. Chicago drops to 16-22-7. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, Johnny Gaudreau. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and assist, Patrick Kane. Number 3 star of the game with a goal and assist, Sean Monahan. The Sharks defeat the Kings 3-1. San Jose improves to 24-13-7. LA drops to 17-24-3. Number 1 star of the game with 3 assists, Erik Karlsson. Number 2 star of the game with the goal, Thomas Hertl. Number 3 star of the game with the goal, Jonas Dunskoki. Tonight's slate is bigger. 7 o'clock, the Wild at the Bruins, the Devils at the Sabres, the Hurricanes at the Islanders, the Panthers at the Penguins, 7:30 NBCSN, the Flyers at the Capitals. Give me Washington at home here, although I do think it'll be a close game. I could see this being a 4-3 Capitals win. But the case against it being a close game is that it's the second of a back-to-back for the Flyers. You have the Canadiens at the Red Wings, the Blue Jackets at the Lightning, 8 o'clock, the Stars at the Blues, the Avalanche at the Jets, 10 o'clock, the Rangers at the Golden Knights, and at 10:30, the Oilers at the Sharks. I'm surprised Oilers-Sharks is not on NBCSN, because that is a pretty good game between Connor McDavid and on the other side you have Erik Karlsson and Brett Burns and that good defense. That should be a national game. I'm going to go over my NFL power rankings. It's just the Elite 8. And I ranked the teams based on who's most likely to win the Super Bowl. I'm going to go backwards and starting at number 8, the Philadelphia Eagles. They get the win over the Bears, but I still think this is the least likely team to win the Super Bowl because they have to go to New Orleans and take on the Saints. Number 7 is the Dallas Cowboys. I just think it's going to be hard for them because if they're to go through the Super Bowl, I think it's going to be most likely they have to obviously upset the Rams, but then they would have to face the Saints. Number 6 is the Indianapolis Colts, a very good performance against the Texans, although they laid back there at the end. I do think that this team has an excellent chance to win in Kansas City, but it doesn't get much easier because they would have to face the winner of the Patriots-Chargers game. Speaking of the Chargers, I have them number 5. I think this is the most likely of the road teams this weekend to win the Super Bowl. This is a very complete team, and I think they have an excellent chance to do so. Number 4 is New England Patriots. This is, to me, the least likely of the home teams this weekend to win the Super Bowl. I think the Chargers are the best of the bottom 4, and the Patriots are the worst of the top 4. So there you go. But certainly a home field helps the Pats. And if they get lucky and the Colts upset the Chiefs, then that opens things up for them a little bit. And then they would have to have Dallas or Philly to come through in the NFC to give them a better chance. Although, I think Dallas and Philly, one of those teams can beat the Patriots this year. I think the Patriots are that vulnerable. But I think they're more likely to win the Super Bowl than the Cowboys or the Eagles because of home field advantage. Number 3 is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that they have a tougher road ahead of them than the two teams ahead of them because I think they have obstacles to go to the Super Bowl in the Chargers and the Colts, and potentially the Patriots. Number 2, I have the Los Angeles Rams. The Cowboys are going to have a lot of their own fan base in the Rams building on Saturday night, which won't bode well for the Rams. But what's standing in the Rams' way is the number 1 New Orleans Saints. I think this team has the best chance to win the Super Bowl. They're the best team remaining. And I can't wait to see how they come out and perform on Sunday. And then the Rams obviously on Saturday with a lot of time to rest. I can't wait for all these teams in the top 4 to come out and perform. Can't wait for this weekend. Should be fun to watch. And before I go, I'm going to do my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. I lost yesterday because a couple of the teams I had on the money line in college hoops did drop their games. I have the Indiana Pacers, the Toronto Raptors, the Golden State Warriors, the Vegas Golden Knights, and a couple of tennis matches here. Stefanos Tsitsipas over Guido Andorozzi, Mikhail Tograpard over Jose Hernandez and Jiri Vesely over Hugo Greiner. Plus 370, wagered 87 cents to win $3.22 with a payout of $4.09. And that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping college basketball, NBA, NHL. Look ahead to tomorrow's slate in all three of those sports. Do more talks for NFL playoffs and NFL coaching situations and Cliff Kingsbury potentially getting a job with the Cardinals or the Jets. We'll discuss all that tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.